Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, we're going to use this word, resilience. I know people hear that all the time. But the thing about that word is everybody hears it, but very few people have a tendency to put action behind that. Imagine with me going to work, raising a family, and having an injury. And then living with an injury. Now that I think about it, it's really fucked up. Because you could have died from the injury. Today on the show, we have a young lady that's clearly a miracle. Let's call it what it is. It's a miracle. Because I know what the injury is. I'm going to tell you guys in a minute. I couldn't even imagine with what I do or what I used to do as a professional athlete, bodybuilder, trainer, having this type of injury and having it misdiagnosed. The other complications that could have arisen from this, mainly death. I'd like to welcome to the show all the way from Oklahoma, go you, the one, the only, the miracle herself, Amy Thurman. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Oh my gosh, Andre, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to share my story with you.
Before we get into the story, tell the viewers a little bit about who Amy Thurman actually is.
Oh my goodness. I am a visionary. I have taken what I have been through, which, as you will find out, is very, very traumatic, and I have turned it into a way to help other people learn to identify who they really are and who they came here to be and what they really want out of life.
Your story sounds unreal. Take the viewers down what actually happened to the injury.
Yes, it is unreal. Like it's unbelievable. And I did almost die. 10 years ago, I passed out and landed on my face on the hardwood floor. And the impact from that sheared my brainstem, caused a traumatic brain injury, and it actually broke my neck. But it took my doctors 6 months to figure out my neck was broken. And so for almost a year after the accident, I had to lay flat in bed for 23 hours a day. I completely missed that entire year of my children's lives. And I almost swallowed a handful of pills because it was such a miserable existence. But I chose instead to fight to live with the intention of using my experience to help other people. And that's what it's become. And that's what I get to do now.
What was the signs, if you can remember, that led that caused you to fall on the floor?
It took the doctor 6 years to figure out why I passed out in the first place. I had been going to the doctor for months before that saying, I don't feel right. I don't feel well. I was lightheaded. I was dizzy. I fatigued easily. And they just kept saying, you just need to drink more water and you just need to rest more. You're just stressed. And so it finally came to a head, and I passed out and ended up bashing my head on the floor.
So you mean to tell me, with the technology that we have today, and you're giving them symptoms of what you're going through, lightheadedness, dizziness, the whole 9 yards. Nobody took it upon themselves to do blood work, CAT scans, MRIs, neurologists, any of these things wasn't options for you?
They did do blood work and they did do MRIs. However, after the accident, my head hurt so badly, like I could not lift my head off the bed. So all of the neurologists were focused on my head. They thought I had a brain bleed. They thought something was wrong with my brain. And they did not scan my neck. They only were scanning my head. And it was my fourth neurologist. I just kept pushing and pushing because I knew someone had to know what was wrong with me. Someone had to know which test to run. And my fourth neurologist said, "Has anyone ever looked at your neck? I think you might have a neck injury." And there it was. So, yes, it took just advocating for myself over and over again to really get it figured out.
What part of the neck was damaged? Because when you're talking about a neck, people die from neck injuries. Let's get real. What part of the neck was damaged? And on top of that, what would you have done that could have actually caused you to die? You could have turned your neck the wrong way while laying in the bed. You could have overextended something that could have messed with a nerve. What did they tell you? What area was it?
That is so true. And as you said, it is simply a miracle that I'm still here. The fourth neurologist found the injury at C4 through C7.
Okay.
And then 6 years later, they discovered that my dens was injured, and that's way at the top, like almost where the skull meets the neck. And he told me that only 5% of people who have a dens injury survive, and even fewer than that actually are able to walk again. And so I literally am a walking miracle.
Who found you on the floor when it first happened?
It's so funny, not funny, but interesting that I just woke up and, in this daze of where am I? And I just saw my living room furniture from the floor level and couldn't figure out why I was laying on the floor. And I tried to get up and my head hurt so badly. So I just called out for my husband and he came over and helped me back to bed. So nobody found me. It was in the middle of the night. It was 2:30 in the morning. So
You didn't go to the hospital that night?
there's a story behind that.
Please,
He
please
said
share.
to me,
Yeah, please share. Because I'm thinking if I find my wife on the floor, she can't remember something, she fell face first, and she's going to the hospital.
right? Well, he said to me, I have always been a very independent, driven person. And he said to me, "Do you want me to call an ambulance?" And I said, "No, just take me back to bed, help me get back to bed." At my job, I was working on a huge project that I had 2 days, 2 more days to complete. And that's all that I was thinking was I've got to be able to get back to work on Monday. I can't be injured. I just need to get back to bed. And so he helped me back to bed. But the next day we went to the ER and they did a CT scan on my brain. Again, just focused on the brain. But yeah, if he had called the ambulance, they would have likely put me in a neck brace and checked my neck. But that wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be.
Because you was more concerned. This is
Right?
wow. You're more concerned about a job
Yes.
project than the fact that you just hit that floor.
Yes.
When you
That's where I got my sense of worth.
when you what from your job? So okay, so
Yes.
you go back to work. No, you go to the hospital, and what happened when you go to the hospital? What did they do?
They did a CT scan of my brain and said everything looks normal. You just need to go see a neurologist.
Okay.
Actually, they said you need to see your primary care doctor, and he sent me to a neurologist, my first neurologist.
Were you feeling any more symptoms or anything, or you just went on going back to work and you know living life?
I could not lift my head off the bed without, it felt like a train was sitting on my head. And I got to the point where I could no longer walk. I had to use a wheelchair, and my husband had to lift my legs to put me in the shower and to go to the restroom. I had to have help to go to the restroom. So I wasn't able to go back to work, although I did try. I'm telling you, that's where I got my sense of worth. Andre, I've learned so much since then, believe me. But at that time, that's where I got my sense of worth. And
Did
I did
they
try to go
know?
back to work.
Did they know at the university what had just happened to you and what you were going through?
I shared with them what I knew. At the time, we didn't know. It was, I think I stayed out for about 6 weeks. My neurologist had me stay out for about 6 weeks. And we still didn't know at that time that my neck was broken. We just knew that there was something wrong. And that I was going to try to go back to work. And it's a miracle that I made it there in the car and back, because literally I got there and had to turn around and come back home. It was wild.
How supportive were the people that you were so adamant to please and define your self worth when conditions became far worsening and you couldn't go there no more? What was the support group? What was the support for you then?
They were very supportive. My colleagues were very supportive. They actually held my job for me for months,
Okay.
just hoping I could come back to it because I so wanted to go back and do that. But when it became obvious that I can't, there's no way I can do this, they let it go. But they were very supportive. They brought me gift cards to get meals, and they were just really reached out to me and just loved me.
More importantly, how were you dealing with all of this? You go from a person that's at least able to do certain things to now not knowing what the hell's going on, but you slowly seeing your life being incapacitated. And more importantly, how was this not only affecting you, but how was it affecting your three children and your husband? Because
Yeah,
everybody's
that
life has to change now because you can't even get up and go to the bathroom. You know,
right.
I would be asking a lot of fucking questions, to the hospital. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. And but nobody figured it out. Nobody was looking in the right place. And people have asked me, are you going to sue your doctors? And I'm no, I they were doing what they were trained to do. They weren't trained to search, this particular area, even though I did go to specialists. But it was a very difficult thing. I missed my little guy was 4 years old at the time. I missed that entire year of his life, and I can't get it back. And I just kept at the time, I just wanted to be the person I was before. I just wanted to get back to being able to do what I could before. So I fought to get that person back, but that's not who I was intended to be. And I had to let that version of me go so that I could become this version of myself and help even more people. And that was a very, very hard thing to do.
How low did this take you? It would have probably
Very low.
people not knowing day by day. What was that like for you?
It was miserable. It was absolutely miserable. And I felt like such a burden to my family because I literally couldn't do anything for myself. Anything. I had to lay in that bed flat for 23 hours a day. I was missing my children's lives. It was like I was dead to them because the brain injury, I couldn't hear or see correctly and I couldn't speak above a whisper. So it was just my husband said at one time it was like living in a funeral home or in a nursing home because they had to stay quiet, they had to keep it dark. And I would never ever wish that on anyone.
When did the light begin to change for you? You went to a doctor, and all of a sudden there was an array of hope. Did you feel kind of pissed off? And let's not even talk about suing doctors because I get it. Doctors only know what you tell them.
Right.
It to me, it seems like there's somebody, and I've been in your situation. Trust me, I can't blame them because they only know what you tell them. But it seems like with the network and the where the injuries are located at, it would seem easy to connect the dots and say, why not look at her neck? She fell forward, the neck goes back, the spinal column is there, the nerves are there. I kind of find it hard to believe that people couldn't direct you in the right paths, but you wind up getting directed to the path. What was that like for you to see your life? What was that like when he or she told you they found the problem?
I will never forget that moment when I got the results of the MRI. I can't remember if it was an MRI or CT on my neck, and it showed the injury. I just burst into tears. It was in a convoluted way, it was such a relief. It was just like, finally, someone figured this out. And I thought, this is it. This is the answer I've been seeking. This is going to give me my life back. This is going to be everything I've been looking for. And it was so far from that. That's not what it was at all. because the journey just continued. It's been going on for 10 years that I've been battling this, trying to just reclaim my life. But that moment of getting those results was just sheer relief. I think that's a good word to describe what I felt in that moment.
What did the doctor tell you the process was going to be for you as far as the road to recovery?
The doctor that found the injury said, I need to refer you to a neurosurgeon because you need surgery. And so it took 3 months to get. I had to jump through the hoops to get in to see the neurologist. And when he saw the imaging, he said, "Yeah, we definitely need to go in there and fix that." And he said that should take care of all of these symptoms that you're having, because I was having more symptoms. Like my right arm was going numb, like my whole left side was completely paralyzed. But I had a lot of fatigue and brain fog and so many other symptoms. And he said, I think this can take care of it all. And so I had the surgery, but it didn't take care of it at the beginning.
You had to go through a sense of rehab or more surgery?
Yes, both. Yes, I have had two neck surgeries now and lots of physical therapy.
What is it like for you now? I mean, on the road to recovery, is it a lot better for you, a lot stronger? More importantly, not only that, how are you mentally now? How are you mentally? Because you can't even move forward in recovery until the mind is ready to go there and strong enough to handle it.
That is so true. And I think that's a key piece of the story is I believe that's why it took me 10 years to get to the point where I am, because I mentally wasn't ready. I was thinking negative thoughts and just wanting to get back to the life I had before when that's not what was meant to be. And so I'm focused on all these other things. But I had a second neck surgery in February of this year, which was 6 or 7 months ago. And since then, everything is changing. It's just improving so much. I don't feel like a bobblehead anymore. Before, I could only hold my head up for just a few hours at a time. And now I'm able to hold my head up longer and do more things and just use my mission to help other people.
You wind up writing a book, and the book is beautifully titled Finding My Hero Within. When did this thought of writing a book surface in your mind? When did this even come about?
There was a point where I knew that I needed help with my brain because it just wasn't functioning. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't drive, even after my first neck surgery. And so I said, I need to go to this brain center to do some intensive brain work, but I can't afford it. It was out of pocket. And so my friends talked me into doing a GoFundMe, and people came out of the woodwork and were able to provide all of the funds needed to do that. And so for 2 weeks, I stayed at that brain center. But what I did was I wanted the people who donated to know what their money was going toward. And so I began to document every day and everything I was doing and just share that with those people. And they started saying to me, you should write a book. This is very inspiring what you're going through and what you're doing. You should write a book. And I was just like, I don't know that people are interested in my story. When you're living it, it's really different than when you're outside looking in. And I just put it off and put it off. And then that my journey just continued to grow and grow and grow. And people along the way just kept saying, this really needs to be a book. And so I finally just gave in and said, if it needs to be a book, it will happen. I will at least open that door. And boy, did it happen in a really fast and exciting way.
What were the three what were three enlightenments that happened during going into this um, treatment plan of reprogramming your mind to keeping your mind strong? What were the three things that clearly gave an impact to you writing this book?
Authenticity is the first one. I have learned to just embrace my authentic self and stop trying to be what other people expect me to be or tell me I should be. And that is a very important part. And that's who I am. I am now just what you see is what you get. The other one is I have learned to what I call polish the mirror, and that's live from a place from self love. I've gone from self love to soul love. I have learned how to move from self love to soul love. The everybody's pushing self love. That's the buzzword. But what we really want is soul love. And so I learned how to take that next step to that next level in my life and live from a place of my soul instead of just self love.
And what's the third?
Resilience. You nailed it on the head at the beginning. Yeah, I have an analogy. I don't know if we have time for that, but to explain resilience.
Tell me what is your definition of resilience? You let me rephrase this. You have earned the right to elaborate on that word because you've lived it. So what is your definition of that? What is resilience to you?
Thank you so much. I see resilience as a rubber band. When you stretch a rubber band, it at first it stretches so far. But then when you stretch it again, it stretches a little bit further. And every time you stretch the rubber band, it stretches further and further. But when you get to the point that it's met its end where you can't stretch any further, we have all been there. It breaks and it snaps you and it hurts, right? And so what resilience is to me is that those trials and those things in our lives, they are like that rubber band. They're stretching us, but it means that we can go and we can take a little bit more each time, but we don't want to get to the point where it's about to break. So we have to have a toolbox that we use that helps us learn to deal with things so that we don't get to the point where the rubber band is about to break. That's the short version.
Your rubber band has been stretched. It has almost came to the points of breakage. I what was the most out of all this stretching and pulling and tugging and stretching and pulling, which one really that you what point of that stretching really got you to your deepest low?
It was the moment I decided that it wasn't worth living anymore, that I did not want to be a burden to my family. I wanted to put myself out of this misery because I was in constant pain. And I decided I was going to swallow a handful of pills. I had plenty of pain medication, so I knew I could do that. And when you're in that deep, dark place, your thinking is very foggy and muddy. And I just had this moment of clarity that said to me, what if you don't have to die? What if you can make a different choice? What if you can fight to live and use your story to help other people? And like a dog with a bone, I held on to that and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight to live with the intention of using my story to help other people. And so that was the moment that I just grabbed on. And it just gave me a sense of hope that maybe there's more to this. I think I began seeing outside the box, like, this is not just about me. This is about being able to help other people. And so that was my moment that really, really clicked for me.
You mentioned something about out of the three categories, you mentioned wiping the mirror, and you mentioned something else, living the way you want to know how other people. How was other people navigating your life versus you navigating it?
Ooh, that's a deep one. That there's a lot to that. I'll give you the short version. I grew up in a very strict religious organized home and community, and was taught to believe a certain way and to act a certain way and to be a specific kind of person. But that's not who I was. I'm an out of the box thinker. I ask the hard questions that nobody wants to answer just because I'm curious. And I was encouraged to not ask those questions and to not be that kind of person. And, I really believe that we come here knowing who we are and what we're supposed to be, but we're taught to be otherwise. We're taught to not be that person. And so it's just a form of remembering who I came here to be and who I really am. And so it's that piece, that authenticity of just saying, I appreciate what you're doing. I know you're trying to help, but this is who I really am. And when I've begun living from that place of authenticity and soul love, literally my world has just exploded. Like, I cannot keep up with all the things that are happening because it's so exciting.
When you mention a religious organization, there's believe me, there's tons of them. We had people on the show that talked about their captivity to Jehovah Witnesses, to Christianity, to Islam, and then they all of a sudden had this epiphany, like what you're talking about, realizing that they're chains or held bound to a certain belief. You started to recognize self identification within yourself, no matter what it was. Something woke you up. But because you grew up, this is what you said, you grew up in a situation to where it was very stern religious practices. Since your awakening, I'm pretty sure a lot of apples have fallen off of the tree. How has that affected you, and how do you interpret that moving forward? And what do you tell other individuals that may have been um, held captive by the religious sector to not be able to find their self worth? Unfortunately, it took an almost detrimental accident for you, but the journey got you to here. So, what do you tell people like that?
Absolutely. It's such a tough thing because when you're raised that way, you don't want to let anybody down. But at the same time, it's so important to be our authentic self. And so I had learned, and this is what I share people, that you have to fire the people who are not good for you. And, I just think about it as a work environment. Like if I have employees and these people are not helping me reach the mission that I want to reach, then we fire them, right? It's the same in our lives. That if the people I'm surrounding myself with, research shows that the 95% of a person's success is determined by the five people you surround yourself with. And so if those people I'm surrounding myself with aren't helping me be who I really am, then I have to fire them. And I lost a whole community of people. Everything was completely stripped away from me at one point, and I just had to rebuild. I had to figure out who I was, go back to who I am meant to be, and just rebuild it. And I decided, you know what? I get to choose this. Like this is something I get to choose. Nobody gets to tell me what I believe. I get to choose that for myself. And it's really freeing when you can get to that point.
How hard was it for you to walk away from people that wasn't elevating you? Because people need to realize that's easier said than done. Let's get real.
Yeah.
You got your girlfriends that's been hanging around you since the birth of your kids, your bridesmaid, the best man. These are people that you've been around. It had to be just as painful for you to say, look, I got to cut the ties. And more importantly, how do you tell them, I can't have you in my space anymore?
It's such a great question. And what I found was they don't understand and they won't understand. And, this happens with people like in relationships a lot too. When one person starts to grow and elevate and the other person doesn't, there's that disconnect there and you feel it, it feels like a tension. But and it changes the communication system. When you try to communicate, it's like you're speaking different languages. And so that's what I found was like I'm trying to explain to them from my position and my experience, and they just are not getting it because they don't have that experience yet. They don't know what that's like. And so I just, said I just need some time. I feel like I need to go just take some time for myself and just be away. And it's nothing against you. This is all about me. And so I wanted them to know that, in a loving way, I'm always trying to do things in a loving and kind way, that this is about me and what I need right now. And I just need some time and some space. And that time and space just continues on and on. It just never ended.
How,
But yeah, some of them took it well, some of them didn't.
how did your husband and your kids accept, or did they understand the new transformation and everything that you've gone through? How was that supporting Cass, and how did they gravitate to the new you?
It was very interesting because exactly what you said, they were so used to me being one way and being able to do certain things. And then now I'm this different person who sees life from a different perspective and through a different lens. And at first it was kind of tricky for them, but they came to love it. They came to embrace it because they saw that I had so much more joy in my life, that I smiled more, that even though I was living with chronic pain, that I just felt better internally. And they just began to embrace that. And I will tell you that my kids are my biggest cheerleaders right now, that they are so supportive of me. And I'm just so, so grateful that they turned out to be such good humans.
What's the greatest? You wrote a book. Let me rephrase this. You wrote a book, Finding My Hero from Within. Why did you label it like that? Finding my hero. That's interesting. Finding my hero. Did you realize
Yes,
later that maybe the hero was already inside you to begin with?
that's exactly what happened. My business is called Polish the Mirror, and I came across this poem by Rumi that says, "Ye who seek God apart, that which you seek thou art. If you wish to seek the beloved's face, polish the mirror and gaze into that space." And that told me that every answer I seek can be found within. I'm looking outside myself for validation, for my worth, for all of these things. I'm waiting for this knight in shining armor to come rescue me, when the whole time this person that I have been looking for is in my reflection in the mirror, has been there the whole time just waiting for me to catch her glance. And so that's what I was able to figure out through this whole journey, that it's no longer anything or anyone outside of me that has what I'm looking for. It's all inside of me. My hero is within me. And I love helping people get to that point where they can see that too, because it's true for everyone. It's not just me. It's not just because I've been through this. It's for everyone, and everyone can reach this place as well.
That was so beautifully put together. And it's almost got me in tears. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
That you
It's
was
my
able,
heart. It's just my
yeah,
heart.
that you was able to look in the mirror and really find that hero from within. Um, Before we wrap up, how can the viewers reach out to you? How can we get the book? How can they reach out to you to know more about your story?
I would love that. My website is www.getamyshelp.com, GETAMYSHELP. And it's kind of a one stop shop. It's got all the links to my social media, it's got my book, it's got all the things on there. I would love to connect with you on the socials. I love meeting new people and just seeing how I can serve.
You had so many people that followed you and supported you through the Go Fund. So you've already built a community. Have you shared? Have a lot of them been reaching out to you as you continue this journey? And what are some of the inspirational things that they share with you?
I tell you, the top one, the one at the very top right now, is a reader who asked if they could meet me on Zoom, which I thought was a little odd, but I said, okay. And so this person said, I wanted to say this to your face, that my book saved their life, that they were on the verge of ending their life. And because of my story and my book, they knew that they had a choice, because I had a choice, but they saw that their life wasn't as bad as they thought it was, because I had made it through all that I had made it through. And I just think, I have had now 3 or 4 readers share that with me. And I just think, if it was just to save those 3 or 4 lives, then it was worth it. That's what it was all about. And it's a very, very powerful. It brings me to tears to think about it. But yeah, saving people's lives through my story, hey, I'm here for that.
Did you ever think that it would happen through the pain that you went through, that you would touch so many people?
I did not, I'm a big thinker. Like, I think big, and the way it's impacting people is even bigger than what I have been dreaming. I literally had telling myself I need to dream bigger, because it's impacting so many people. And no, I didn't see it that way. I think I just made that commitment that I'm just going to use my story to help other people. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm here, I'm open, and let's just do it. And it's just really exploded in a way that I never even dreamed.
Well, I think you are dreaming bigger because if I'm not mistaken, you're getting ready to come out with another book. Am I correct on that? Or you're
I
working?
am working on one, yes.
Give us a little insight on what that's going to be about. I'm curious myself.
The first book's called Finding My Hero Within. It's my journey of what I did, my journey. And the next book, I'm not going to tell you the title, but it's going to be how I did it, because people all the time contact me like, "How did you do that? Can you teach me how to do that?" And what I keep saying is, like, I can write a script or a program for you to follow, but it's not going to be authentic to you. You have to follow what's in your heart and what's in your soul. And so the second book is going to be how to shift from self love to soul love to really figure out the way that works for you in every area of life. It can be applied to business, it can be applied to relationships, finances, everything. If you live from a place of soul love, it will take you places you never dreamed of. So that's what the second book is going to be about.
There's something interesting before we wrap up. What is the difference between self love and soul love as far as what your interpretation is?
I have several. I will give you the short, I'll just give you one. I have three different ones, but I'll give you one. The first one is that self love is based in fear. I mean, when you think about it, it's a protective mechanism. It's us setting boundaries. It's taking care of ourselves so that our health doesn't fail. So it's out of a place of fear. But soul love is based in unconditional love. It will always take you to a place of love. And it's just accepting and loving yourself for who you are. Self love is who you are now, accepting and loving who you are now. Soul love is this person that you have the potential to become, seeing outside the box and loving that version of you that you are going to become. And I could talk about it in more depth, but that's basically it.
It all sounds truly beautiful. I appreciate you taking the time to come onto the show and share such a very impactful journey. And definitely, they got that beast mindset. My hat's off to you. You definitely are touching a lot of lives. I wish you the best success. Make sure you guys reach out and get the book, Finding My Hero from Within. This has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton show.